consistent. And I think that as a breeder, I'm learning. You know, I've got a lot to learn, and I think that in any industry, you've got to keep on learning as long as you go, and as long as you're doing it. And if you want to do it right, then you've got to ask lots of questions. I think for me, that's for us at Bloomhill, and we're a small stud, I think that we need to obviously try and spread the risk. We couldn't take the gamble of only going to one stallion.
Yes,
you know, I think if you're looking at your give me the green lights and your Vercingetrix and all that, we financially it would be a bit of a no-brainer.
Welcome to another edition of In the Box Seat with myself, Warren Lenferner, and I am flying absolutely solo today as the host, because my good friend, bushy-haired, barefooted friend, Andrew Harrison, has turned his back on me, and he's taken his whole family, I don't know, semi-retirement, maybe it's not a bad thing. He's gone off to the Kruger National Park for a whopping 14 days. If he sends me one more photo of a cheetah, one more photo of a leopard or a lion, and while I'm driving in the Durban traffic, it's not going to end well. But Andrew will be back with us in about 2 weeks' time. We wish him a happy holiday and a well-deserved break with his family. So it's just me and our guest today, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce one of the lady breeders in the horse racing industry. Her name is Sandra Trethewey from the Trethewey family, and they own Bloomhill Stud out in Wartburg. So she's our guest, and we're going to touch base with her and find out what makes Bloomhill tick. Sandra, how are you?
Well, thanks, Warren. Thank you for having me here today.
Absolutely lovely, and as we've said many times, our podcast, we try and get as many informative and interesting guests as possible, and if anyone wants to be on our podcast, you're most welcome to drop us a line, and we'd love to hear your story. But today we're hearing the story of young breeders. We say young breeder, new breeders on the block. I know that the Trethewey family and Bloomhill Stud have been going for approximately 3 years, but in my opinion, that's still fairly young as a breeder. And where are you from, Sandra? Where are you from?
So I'm originally from Zululand, from Trethewey. I grew up in the bush and went to school in Pietermaritzburg. And since Lance and I got married, I moved up to the Midlands, and we're based in Wartburg in the KZN Midlands.
Okay. Well, obviously, majority of the breeding establishments are in Nottingham Road, Rosetta, yes, wherever, etc. You find yourself out in Wartburg, which, as you said, that's where you are. Any different challenges or anything different? I mean, I've been to the farm and I've seen it's a magnificent setup, but do you find any challenges, really?
I think mindset probably is one of the biggest challenges we faced with. I know when we went to our first auction last year, there was, but people don't breed horses in Wartburg. You know, why you're not in the Midlands around Mooi River. But I do think our climate is, I think there's more, instead of challenges, I think there's more advantages, because we are a lot warmer than the Mooi River area. So we have, our grass is better for longer. And I think our rainfall is probably about the same that the Mooi River area has.
Right.
But I think in the temperature, the growth on animals and that is probably has us at an advantage. And I felt, you know, I don't believe in having horses just living on concentrates. I like a good grazing and good paddocks and pastures, and we spend a lot of time and effort and energy into that. And that allows us and affords us that ability with those longer, hotter days.
The Trethewey family consists of 4 members, is that right? I'm talking
Correct.
About the immediate Trethewey. Tell us who those 4 members are, and
so,
tell us a bit about them.
Okay, we are myself, obviously, then Lance, my husband, Taylor, my daughter, who's 15, and Callum, our son, who is 12. Lance, in a nutshell, and actually Taylor and Callum are all the petrol heads in the family. Lance races off-road cars. He races the like you see in the Dakar. That's his passion.
Sure.
And when I met him, he used to race motorbikes. And as he's aged, it's progressed to cars. And he bought his first car when I was probably 9 months pregnant with Taylor.
Sure.
And he's been racing ever since, so for the last 15 years, and he's incredibly successful at that, and has had the South African champion title in his class for a couple of years. And I must say that Taylor and Callum share his passion on motorbikes and cars, and Taylor's actually navigated a few races for him already. So yeah, it takes a mother's heartstrings and nerves to a different level, but it's what they love and they're passionate about, and I support them, and I'm there to support them all the way. It's definitely a family sport where the kids and I always go along, and I'm always on a radio, or now that Lance is in a new CR6, we can phone the car and say you're this far behind and feed the information, and yeah, so it's something we'll participate in. Yeah, Taylor's obviously in high school at the moment and very sporty and just a general all-rounder, but absolutely she shares the passion for horses that I have, and it's very special because she's certainly got an intuition about it. And when we went to the yearling sale, not the yearling sale, the Mare Foal sale in Cape Town last year, she picked up the 2 horses that we actually bought, and said, "Mum, can we go and have a look at these?" So I think I've definitely got my sidekick and my friend in her, and she's definitely the partner on the breeding side. And then Callum, yeah, he's also petrol head, loves diesel, dust, dirt, typical boy, loves sport, very sociable. Yeah, and that's us as a whole. Outdoorsy, love water skiing, outdoor sports, and yeah, that's who we are.
When you drive with Lance, if you're going to the shops or to Durban for an outing or whatever, is he a fast driver?
He's actually not.
Is he not? So he cruises, he's...
Yeah,
okay.
he's...
Put him into racing mode, different story.
Yes, he's very responsible and he's a very safe driver. Okay. His navigators that have actually been in the car with him say they're probably one of the best drivers that they've sat next to. Okay. But I must say that coming back from a race is a totally different ball game, because
the adrenaline's still pumping.
The adrenaline's still pumping and the late braking. You know, I keep on finding myself putting my hand on the dash, kind of, okay, love, you've stopped racing now. You know, we're in a car. So yeah, that's possibly where it's a little bit hair raising, is on the way back after a race. Okay. Yeah.
And Sandra, where does your daughter go to school? Is she at Wartburg High? Or it's a co-ed at Wartburg High, yes. Isn't it? But where does she go to school?
She chose the Wickham Collegiate.
Stunning school.
Yeah, she's a magnificent school, and certainly the perfect fit for her.
Okay. Is she a boarder, or
she's
do you
a
go
weekly boarder.
Okay,
yeah, she's a weekly boarder. Okay, yeah, being sporty, it's just easier that way. And absolutely. I think that I was a boarder, and I think the boarders certainly have a different experience of school, and make wonderful friends and lifelong friends.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Gary Rich's sister, I think, is just retired. She was a teacher and a head of department at the Wickham Collegiate for years. Okay. And in fact, her name is Julie Mustard. She was married to Leslie Mustard, who won the Rothmans July then, yes. on Lightning Shot. So yes. Just a bit of extra trivia. Okay. What is Lance's main business? You guys farm, of course you farm, but tell us about the business side now, because he's got earth-moving interest, you've got the flowers. You're going to tell us about all that. Okay,
so Lance, his primary business is, our business is the earth-moving business. It's called LT Earth Movers, and we're an earth-moving business, plant hire business based in KZN, but we service the whole of South Africa. And we have, from our main clientele is the agricultural sector, but we also service the mining industry. We have a couple of mining machines, and but it's certainly what he lives to do. Okay. He wakes up every day happy and excited about, he certainly is living his dream.
The earth moving business is based on the farm. I mean, that's where it is. And then the horses and the flowers. Not many know that, I mean, you grow and farm the most magnificent flowers, hence Bloomhill.
That's correct. Yes, Warren, a couple of years ago we decided, both Lance and I, that we needed to actually do things and tick a couple of things off our bucket list. And it was, in our family, Christmas cards and birthday cards are so much more important than the gift and what we say in our cards or our letters to each other. And it was actually quite uncanny, because it was almost like the same person had written my letter to him and his letter to me on our cards on Christmas Day. And both of us said it was time to actually add some joy to our business life, and we'd worked really hard at getting LT Earth Movers up and going over the last 15 years. And we both decided that it was the year to tick things off our bucket list. So what I decided to do was, I come from farming stock. You know, I come from a big cattle farm up in Zululand, game farm, and it was a sugar farm, but we don't grow sugar anymore. And I think when you've grown up working the land and living on a farm, you always have this nurturing inside you to grow something or tend to something, and for me it was to grow something, but grow something beautiful. And I had a little shop in the village of Wartburg at the time, and I had a lady supplying me with bunches of flowers. And I had my own rose garden that was probably 500-600 rose bushes. And I'd never ever thought of the potential of that. And when I saw these magnificent farm-picked bunches that were coming into my shop and so popular, and then something happened that she couldn't no longer supply me, I thought, okay, well, let me look inwards. And that's how it actually all started. And at the same time, Lance's wish was that he wanted to have a cattle stud and have cattle. So we went, it was actually in the July of that following year after that Christmas, and we went off, and I had ordered 580 rose bushes to add, and we walked away with 5,000 rose bushes from Ludwig's Roses, and we went and bought our first lot of cattle. And that's where we both started on a slightly different journey, and it's also good not to all have all your eggs in one basket.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
you need to keep your options open. And yeah, so we mainly grow scented garden roses, the old-fashioned garden roses, and I think for me the joy is when somebody buys a bunch. When you go to the more commercial outlets, you don't have that scent. Whereas when people come to the farm, or you know, we have our outlets that we supply to, and they pick up that bunch of flowers and they can actually put their heads into the bunch of roses, and you can just see how it evokes memories and triggers things that they remember. Oh, my gran used to have a rose bush that smelled like this at her back door, or you know, and that's what makes it really, really beautiful. And they just bring a different, to the bridal and floral industry, they just bring a completely different feel to what's grown commercially. So
and also too, it's quite interesting as you say, because if you buy a bunch of unscented roses, the first instinct for any human is to go and smell it.
Yes.
And you're like sort of like, it's not, it doesn't smell. And then you know, when you do find a bunch off, and you just can't get your head out of there really, because you're enjoying the scent.
So the downside of a scented rose, it doesn't have the vase life of a commercially grown rose, and that's probably why they've grown roses that can last for 10 days in a vase or 2 weeks in a vase.
Sure.
Where your scented rose doesn't last as long, but I think the joy that it brings far outweighs the vase life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for a bride and her bouquet, or on the main table, or even if they can afford it, the whole wedding. But there's nothing more beautiful than that.
How interesting is that? Okay, lovely. Hobbies, I mean, you've spoken about the kids and Lance's hobby, but do you have, besides, I know you get involved with them and take an interest, but do you have anything else that you do
I love swimming. That's my happy place, is in the water. So I did a lot of aqua aerobics and things like that, and swimming. But you know, when you have children that are sporty, you kind of, and a husband that's sporty, you kind of seem to follow them and be caught up in their things. Reading, when I find a good book, you won't find me anywhere else than my nose in the book. And just generally gardening and just being outside. I love going to the bush. We've got a game lodge up in Wysiwyg called Philaza Game Park and Spa. I did that before Lance and I got married. I started that and ran that for 13 years. So the bush is awesome. Bird watching. Just really being outside. I think that's my go-to.
Cheers, clothes. Bye bye. Okay, and a good meal, glass of wine.
Absolutely.
Doesn't scare you, like me?
My mum's Italian.
Okay.
So you certainly grow up eating good food and well-prepared food, and food that's taken ages. I went to go and visit my gran in Italy for 4 months, and I remember making a spaghetti. No, it was a tomato sauce with it, because she had lots of tomatoes in the garden. And I said, "Oh, Nonna, isn't it ready yet?" And she said, No, Sandra. The food that is good, it takes the time, you know." And I certainly have the motto of life's too short to eat bad food.
Bad food, yeah, absolutely, and drink bad wine.
Yes, exactly. So yes, we there's a lot of, and you know what I love about food is that there's a lot of communion around a table, and there's a lot of friendships formed, and it's time in our house, breakfast, lunch and dinner. If it's holidays, we all sit at the table together and we eat all 3 meals, and it's obviously easier on a farm in the environment we live in. And Taylor coming back on a Friday evening, it's great sitting around the table and how's your week been and what have you been up to, and all the boarding school and school stories. So yeah, great food and good company and good wine, absolutely.
Now you've mentioned a couple of places, you know, game lodges, etc., Italy, but where could we go on holiday if you know, your favourite destination? If Lance said to you, "Come on, we're going on holiday," where's a must?
Definitely the beach.
Okay.
Definitely the beach. and the bush, but definitely the beach. That's my go-to. Mauritius has been a great holiday destination for us as a family, and we actually just celebrated my 50th birthday there in April. It was a surprise trip that Lance and Taylor and Callum planned for me.
Where in Mauritius do you stay?
We went to, this time we went to Chandrani.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Okay. But we also love the bush. Yeah, you know, we've going to Kruger, and for one of my other birthdays, when it was lockdown, we went to Mala Mala. You know, that was absolutely incredible. And then we've got friends that are involved at Zebra Hills, so we've been to visit them, and we've been to Pinda. So, yeah.
Well, I can tell you we've got a lot of similarities, because there's members of my family that adore the sea.
Yes.
I'm far more a Midlands kind of person, mountains, Midlands, bush.
Yes.
My wife loves the game reserves, which I do too, because I'm a bird watcher as well. I don't only watch horses all day, I do like to watch birds, the feathered type. Yeah. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of similarities, but yeah, you know, as you say, outdoors is what it's all about.
Absolutely.
It really is. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Okay, it's interesting. Now, what's Sandra Trethewey's pet hate?
Dishonesty, people that aren't loyal, and backstabbing.
Okay, all right, there we go. And what do you enjoy the most? What makes you happy?
I like it in people.
In people and in
yes.
life. And yeah, what do you enjoy?
In people, I like people that are completely open and honest with who they are. Yes. I don't like people that have guards about everything and I really like good, honest, solid people that you can trust, and you know, actually let you see who they really are. That for me is important. What makes me happy is possibly just being outdoors with my family. Watching my children grow has been an incredibly rewarding journey, and just I feel very privileged to be able to work with animals and nature and plants and beautiful flowers every day of my life. Sure, so I really am very grateful, and often have to sound very cliched, but go, wow, I'm fortunate to do this. I love friends, I love socializing, love a good time, love a good dance, love a good party, love music. So yeah, that's probably what makes me happy.
Fantastic. Now let's talk about this whole breeding, learning about the thoroughbred, breeding horses. I mean, let's go all the way back. Who told you about it? How did you hear about it? How did it all start for you?
So Warren, as a young girl, I've always had a love for horses. And we always used to go and visit friends in the Free State in Warden at Easter, and they used to have, obviously in the Free State's full of horses, and we used to ride. And anyway, they came to the farm to visit us once, and they arrived with a truck, and they bought 2 little Shetland ponies. And one was called Twaksak, and the other one was called Dogolosh. And Dogolosh was a bit wild, and nobody could ride her, but the little stallion, Twaksak, was mine, and that's where the love of horses began. And funny, my grandmother was also a farmer, and my great-grandmother as well. And I remember saying to my grandmother one day, Gran, I'm going to own a farm in the Midlands, and I'm going to have a stone farmhouse, and I'm going to own horses. And she said, oh, my girl, horses cost lots of money. And she was certainly not wrong. She was a cattle farmer. But yeah, and we do live in a stone farmhouse that's over 180 years old, and we do own horses. But I think when you have a love for an animal, it doesn't leave you. You know, it's like me with dogs. I absolutely love dogs. But horses are different. It's a magical creature. And when we were actually in lockdown, and my children had riding horses, and I was walking them, you know, all around the sugarcane fields around us, and walking because I wanted to ride every day. And I said to Lance, no, hold on, I actually need to get myself a horse again, and I need to ride with them. That's going to be a whole lot more fun. And it was at the same time that the Summerhill dispersal sale was happening. And I phoned Amaray, who was McGrath's PA. Yes. And I said to her, listen, I'm looking for a horse to ride. And she said, come up. You know, we've got babysitters and we've got the rest of it, so come and have a look. And Taylor and I went up on the Saturday afternoon, and I was going to go and find myself a riding horse. And she said, listen, I'm showing clients around, so will you join me? So I said, yeah, absolutely. And we I mean,
who doesn't want to look at horses?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it was my first experiences at weanlings and yearlings and 2-year-olds and the rest of it. And when we walked into the mare camp. And honestly, we were just dragging our heels and just, you know, following along the rest of the buyers and just learning as we went and listening to Amaray and all the staff speaking and teaching people about things. That's when old Wysiwyg came up to me and wouldn't leave my side. And we went to another camp and we looked at other horses, and then we came back to this mare camp again because one of the buyers wanted to have a look at mares, and she came up to me again, and I left the camp and I climbed through the fence again, and she came to me again. And my daughter actually said, Taylor said, Mum, this horse hasn't left you alone. I think you need to take her home. I said, well, maybe this will be my riding horse. So yes, that's how it all started. I ended up buying 6 brood mares, and I still don't have a riding horse, Warren.
So you bought 6 brood mares and still no riding horse.
Exactly,
okay,
exactly.
No
Yeah, so I'm still on the lookout for that riding horse. And Lance keeps on saying to me, my husband keeps on saying, well, you've got so many horses, why can't you ride one of them? I said, it's just not the same.
Not the same. Good answer,
yeah.
Darn good answer. So Wysiwyg, or everyone may pronounce it differently,
yes.
Wysiwyg, but that was one of the 6.
She was one of the 6.
And as you said in your insert, that were done for all the breeders on the KwaZulu-Natal Breeders' Day that did sponsor races. She's your foundation there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't think that it could have been a sweeter ending or beginning, actually, if we ever had one. She certainly is our foundation mare, and you know, we have a filly on the ground now, and it's that whole from her out of Declaration of Peace, and it's now that whole debate starts of, do you keep her? Do you sell her? What do you actually do? Do you keep the bloodline? So yeah, she's just she's a beautiful mare, and actually even now when I go and show people the brood mares and we go into the camp, she'll come up to me, and she actually doesn't even like me speaking to anybody else. She'll come in between myself and the next person, and I kind of know, I need your attention. Yeah.
Funny enough, we were talking about it at the dinner table last night, because it was the Eden Rock Day, which we'll touch on just now. But we stayed on and had some dinner with some of the breeders, and they were just saying that there are some owners and there are some people that get that connection. There's you know, and it's not, they say horses talk to you, but I mean, obviously they don't open their mouths and speak, but there's that connection. So obviously there was that connection with you and Wysiwyg, and look at, and she's still doing so well, and she's happy on the farm. And you say there's a declaration of peace on the ground now.
Yes.
But there was Wise Act, I think it was called.
That's correct.
With Corne Spies.
That's it.
And how was that for a debut performance?
Well, that was phenomenal. So old Mr. Spies phoned me on Monday, and he said to me, so I like to check in on all my horses and where they're being trained, and if the trainers are happy with them and the owners are happy with them. I'm probably a bit of a stalker in that regard, because I just really like to know that my horses are being looked after and that the clients are happy with them and they're doing well. I think that one of the things I did learn, I'm digressing a little bit now, is when we went to go and look at all the top stallions in the Cape and did our stallion tour, the really top guys, the top horses have all got phenomenal temperaments. And to me, that really sank in, and I just thought, you know what, if a horse has got a good temperament, it's trainable. Now this Wise Act, from the day he was born, he had a bit of a hairy arrival. I was in Zululand at a wedding that I'd actually done all the florals for, and I had to call the vet out, and I didn't have, my groom had gone on weekend off. It was really bad timing, or we had a family emergency. So I actually had our housemaid that has done a first aid course. She was actually on duty, Agnes, and she's been with us for 20 years. And she actually fell down Wise Act, and she phoned me at 3 o'clock in the morning, panicking and going, he's not coming out properly, the foal's not coming out properly. And I said, okay, just calm down, put your hand in, you know, it was coming out skew, put your hand in quietly, gently, slowly, and just wait for her to not push, you know, wait for the contraction to stop, and then just line him up, and then he was born. But what a magnificent horse from little. And, you know, he's got that patch on his back leg that everybody always says, is that a bandage, is that a bandage? So looking at him, watching him race on Thursday, we could see him in the crowd straight away because there was the patch on his back leg. But what a run. I mean, he came out the starting gates last, and it was his first run. But yeah, he did exceptionally well.
And it's almost when you're watching the race, I mean, I know that you bred, it's almost like you still own it.
Absolutely.
Because you bred, I mean, and that's what's so great, you know, is that you have this interest in these horses. Yes, as a breeder, as most breeders, you'll keep 1 or 2 horses, you'll race, but generally you're there to sell and to watch them run. So that must be like watching your kids running. Absolutely. Talking about Wysiwyg and Wise Act, I've just lost my train of thought for a moment. You have got Rabada.
Yes.
Now you've got more than one mare on the farm. We know that, but Wysiwyg is your foundation mare. But now there's Rabada.
Yes.
Let's talk about him. How did you get him? Because my oh my, he stamps them.
Yeah, he certainly does. Last year, Mick Goss, so we have a very close working relationship with Mick, and I'm very privileged to say that he's my mentor, and we own 4 horses together, and 4 mares together, and Mick phoned one day and he said, you know, there were a couple of changes in the Midlands with a couple of farms closing and stallions moving around, and he didn't have anywhere to go, and he said to me, he said, I'd like to gift you Rabada on condition that you don't geldem for the next couple of years, and once you know, whether he makes it or not, if he doesn't make it and his progeny doesn't run, then you're welcome to geldem in a couple of years' time and use him as a riding horse. And so Lance and I drove up to Bruce LaRue's farm, and we had a look at him, and gosh, what a magnificent animal he is.
He certainly
and
is.
he certainly was welcomed home. The following day he came down. Yeah, so he's been on the farm since August last year. He covered a couple of mares last season. He didn't have a big book. I think unfortunately that's where the shortfall comes with a stallion like him. He certainly has made his mark in the industry this year, and he's had some phenomenal winners and some phenomenal runners, and his percentages are sitting sky high, you know, but even with his small book, I think he's sitting at 38% or even maybe in the 40s. Of runners to winners, and the couple of the owners that I've spoken to and the trainers that are actually training the Rabadas are very, very happy with the progeny.
Well,
with his progeny.
There was one that ran third the other day. I mentioned it on TV.
Yes.
It was a Wayne Badenhorst horse. For me, it went down to the start, head and shoulders. It looked a magnificent specimen. Wayne Badenhorst, the trainer horse. Julie ran third at a nice price, and he just stuck out like a sore thumb. At the recent national KZN yearling sales. Just a couple of weeks back, I tried desperately to buy one. I was in love with one and just didn't have the budget, but that's great for the connections of the horse. Bad luck for me, you know. So yeah, they certainly can run, and they certainly do get stamped. There's no doubt about that. But while we're on stallions, yesterday was the Eden Rock Day. Now that I'm breaking everything, I put my hat on. Eden Rock, there he is. At Clifton Stud is where he stands, and the KZN Breeders Club is a huge club of KZN breeders and passionate breeders. But it was a good day yesterday. You looked like you and the family enjoyed it, and what a lovely stallion Eden Rock is. Absolutely.
Well, it was certainly wonderful to go and see Clifton Stud and be with Peter and Jenny. What a magnificent place. I mean, that view was just spectacular. But Eden Rock he blew me away with his temperament. I mean, he's a very correct horse. But just to have come in calm and cool, calm and collected with all the people around, he's beautiful, and he's starting to let down. He's letting down really nicely. But yeah, really, really, really nice stallion. I was very impressed with him.
Last winter's also there with them. So there's things are starting to happen in KZN. There's some lovely sires and some lovely stallions, and obviously he had let down a lot more because he's been there longer. But he was also, I thought, in outstanding condition.
Absolutely, and I mean, what a big, magnificent, broad horse. And I loved his movement. He's really got floaty paces, so that's what I especially noticed about him. Also, looking the picture of perfection. And yeah, Peter and Jenny are doing an outstanding job there, and yeah, I just wish them well for the season, and I hope they get the support that they deserve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And it's quite exciting what the KZN breeders have done, and that they've bought a stallion for the breeders and for KZN. So I do really, really hope that he gets the support. So they both get the support that they need.
I'm sure they will, and we'll all make sure that we can do our very best to support them. When you talk about matings, you and Lance do your matings. Are you going to sort of mix and you'll obviously use some KZN stallions. You'll send off a few to the Cape, as the Cape send up to us, and vice versa. Is that what you plan to do, or are you looking at sticking with strictly KZN stallions?
No, Warren. I don't know if it's a positive or a negative, but we certainly need to send horses to the Cape for the commercial value.
Yes.
So we do have the mares with Mick, and obviously Wysiwyg in that. who we will send off to the Cape. We're probably going to be sending to Platina as well.
Yes, yes.
And then we'll have horses that we'll send to KZN and support the KZN breeders.
I mean, because now Wysywyg's one is Declaration of Peace, which is KZN based. So there you go. So
yes.
I think I'm not a breeder and I'm not a professor by any means, but I think for any breeder to say, well, you know, I'm only using KZN stallions, or any breeder to say I'm only using Cape Town stallions, you know, it's a bit narrow-minded.
Yes.
You know, you've got to spread, as you say, because you've also got to look at the matings. You've got to think,
Absolutely.
well, this horse might match Platina, who's Cape-based, or
Yes.
you know. So yeah, it's the right thing to do, is to give yourself the best chance and mix, because I mean, this country, in my opinion, has got some fabulous stallions.
Absolutely magnificent. And I think that as a breeder, I'm learning. You know, I've got a lot to learn, and I think that in any industry, you've got to keep on learning as long as you go,
Sure.
and as long as you're doing it. And if you want to do it right, then you've got to ask lots of questions. I think for me, that's for us at Bloomhill, and we're a small stud, I think that we need to obviously try and spread the risk. We couldn't take the gamble of only going to one stallion.
Yes,
you know,
sure.
I think if you're looking at your Give Me the Green Lights and your Vercingetrix and all that, we financially it would be a bit of a no-brainer. And also you've got to send the right quality mares to stallions like that. And if you've got the top-end mares, then you can do that. It makes sense.
Sure.
You know, one of the things that one of the vets that visited my farm said, you can't make a good mare out of a bad mare out of a good stallion. You know, you can't correct it with going to the top stallion.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, so for us it's about spreading the risk and also just seeing what works. I like to go and see especially the stud managers, and learn what a stallion throws. You know, for Rabada, he throws a big horse.
Yes.
He gives you a size. He's quite dominant in what he carries through in his progeny. You can see a Rabada. He certainly makes his mark. Other stallions don't do that.
Sure.
So then you need to send a bigger mare that she's gonna bring her side to it. So, and you know, other mares, you can give them any stallion and they're going to produce something magnificent. So it's to find what your mare does and find the right stallion match for her.
Yes, yes.
Which is what I'm learning, and I'm learning as we go and as we breed and we see what comes out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Lovely, what an interesting story. Your staff, now, again, having been blessed to go to the majority, in fact I think all the KZN farms and the majority in the country, we're blessed with some very good horse people and some very good, you know, the people that work with horses on a daily basis. But your staff are particularly well trained. I mean, what I'm trying to ask you is, have you put training into them? Do you do the training, or do you just hire the high end? How does it work? Because your staff are on the ball.
Well, we have a mixture, Warren. We have two of our staff that were actually just casual workers on the flower farm, and one in particular showed an interest in the horses, and she's learnt. And she's been in the horses now for 3 years. The stud manager is probably one of the top that there is in the country, Matuasi Beauty. She came from Mick. Mick has obviously worked with her and worked with her mum. So she's grown up knowing horses.
Okay.
And then she's brought a couple of staff that have worked with her. We have a lovely atmosphere and vibe on the farm. I don't allow lots of noise and lots of loud. And even on our cattle farm, it's quiet. It's just, you know, work nicely with the animals, no screaming and shouting. And she certainly does make sure that ethos runs in the yard all the time in my absence. They are, sure, I couldn't have actually wished for better. Sure. I'm very blessed because they know how to do, they stitch, they can do IVs. The tailors learned, they've tailored to stitch, they've tailored to do IVs. You know, they live on the property, so if there's a problem at night, it's just not me on my own.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
they're with me. We had a sick horse the other day and not one of them went off, and I said, okay guys, I'm here, one of you, no, we're here, we need to sort out the horse. And so they're phenomenal. So I have sourced, and obviously through recommendation from Mick, and we have a lot of grooms phoning, and a lot of people phoning to come and work, but I'm very selective because of the ethos I want to try and create.
Absolutely.
and keep in the yard.
Sure.
So we don't have any work riders yet. One of our guys that was with us has left for the Cape, but it's okay. We only need to have that again next year, so we'll find somebody. Yeah.
Okay, that's also a lovely story. Sure, it's a long game. Horse racing, breeding, punting, owning, breeding. It's a long game, and we say that you're young in the industry, and you've just alluded to that you're learning, but I mean it's you're here for the long haul. I mean you're in it to win it, and you're doing it properly, and as you say, we all learn on a daily basis. But yeah, it's been 3 years. Some may say it's not, you're not young anymore, but it's young as far as there's been breeders that have been going for 25, 30 years, and that is. Yeah, you're in for the long haul, and it's exciting, I think. I mean, things have already taken off nicely. You've been to sales, you've sold some already, and also starting to run. And yeah, it's all just young, and so much still to come, please God.
Yes, there is certainly lots of firsts, still happening, lots of firsts. So, Warren, yeah, I think we are still young. When you buy brood mares that are on foal, you obviously have a little bit of a leg up, and because they're going to fall down when a couple of months after you've bought them. That was a whole new experience. Then obviously weaning is a new experience, and then training for sales and getting them prepped for sales was a whole new experience again. And yes, we have retained 2 of our horses from our first lot of 6 mares, that are both in training now. And now we're going to have first-time runners, where we owners. And we've just had, like Wysiwyg running last week was one of our first horses that we've bred that's run. So there's a lot of firsts. And I think while we're still having lots of firsts, I think we still are new kids on the block and very wet behind the ears.
The racing silks, you were telling me off air, that's exciting, because one of your trainers here at Summerfeld have said, let's get colours, and you've designed your colours. That's, I mean, on its own is a bit stressful, because sometimes when you say that's what you want, they keep saying they haven't got. But I mean, that's exciting. Tell us about your racing silks.
Yeah, so what we chatted about earlier is that we are a family business, so our children are part of the process. And let me tell you, when I got to racing silks, everybody had their own colour combination and design. So we eventually had to have like a meeting, go, right, what do we actually, how are we racing? Are we promoting the stud? Are we racing as individuals? And I eventually convinced my family that we needed to race in the same colours as the stud to get the credibility for the stud. Sure. And just keep that theme and that ethos and that image going, So yes, we've decided on blue and navy and gold. And yeah, we're delighted at what's going to come. And now Dean, I was just here this morning at the track. Dean has our perfectly picked Ideal World filly that actually belongs to Taylor, our daughter, and she's ready to run. So we're hoping that we'll be able to put the colours on soon, have them made, and they'll be on a horse and on a jockey soon. What is the name of the one that's the perfectly picked? Perfectly picked. Yes, okay. Yes. And also perfectly named, because of course you pick flowers. Maybe is that how you pick flowers? And her mum is pick of the field. Okay. Geez, yes, look at that. Okay. Yes, okay. And she's an Ideal World filly. Okay. Very nice filly, and doing exceptionally well. Dean's very happy with her. Okay. So yeah, we're excited about that. Did you go up to chatting to a couple of the breeders yesterday? Did you go up to the Maritzfontein Stallion Day? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Try and get up there one day when you can. Yes, we're going to. You mentioned Denon Platina. Yes. Ideal World and this the third Digital Age, I think, is the third one. But yeah, go and see them if you can. Yes, that is on our bucket list for this year. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to be one of our trips that we're doing. We're in the home straight now, and our team always like us to do quick fire questions. Okay. Okay, which is, I'm going to throw you a quote or a name, and you're going to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. In the hot seat. They like to end with a bit of fun. Perfect. Okay, first thing that comes to your mind when I say load shedding. Black. We live in the sticks, it's dark. Dark, yeah, absolutely. Okay, then Gold Cup. Flash. Okay, lovely. Hollywood Bets Durban, July. Drakenstein. Lots of people. Exciting day. Young Cabello Mazzagnani. Great potential. Good rider. Exciting future. Do It Again. Wow. Your favourite horse? Probably one of my own. Okay. And probably Wysiwyg, maybe. They all have a special place in my heart. Your favourite race course, either locally or internationally or wherever? I don't have much experience with race courses, but yeah, my experience at Gravel was great the other day. Now, they've asked me to ask you, what are your thoughts on threads? Now, I sent back a note saying, what's a thread? What's this? And apparently it's a new social media app.
Did you know that?
Haven't heard about it.
Me too. Threads. I don't know what's Threads.
No, actually, I did hear about it yesterday, and apparently they'd said that they had more users than TikTok had. Am I right?
Gracious.
Yeah.
I better not tell my wife that because she's addicted to TikTok. But I can't moan at her about being addicted to TikTok because I'm addicted to Teletrack Racing 240.
Oh, well, there we go.
And Gallop TV. So I can't moan. So she can stick to TikTok. I'll stick to Gallop TV.
Yeah, no, the social media and all these
240.
new things. I just keep to the basics.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so you and I are on the same. The Threads, what's that? We don't know. Yeah, we'll keep it at that. And then the last one is what comes to your mind when I say Wysiwyg?
Spectacular. Heart horse.
Absolutely, sure. And Sandra, it's been absolutely lovely. How long have we been? We've been going on for an hour, and when I interview people, they're saying, hour? We could have gone on for 2 hours.
Absolutely.
Because there's just so much to talk about. But really, thank you for being our guest.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. And on behalf of GoldCircle and on behalf of Racing South Africa and Racing KZN GoldCircle and the In the Box Seat podcast, we wish you and your family well.
Thank you, Warren.
And we need investors in the industry, whether you're an owner, trainer, breeder, we need investors. And clearly you are investors, as are everybody else. But it's your time to shine now, and we thank you, and we just wish you all the very best in your flower business, the cattle business, the earth moving, the horse business, and may we see you in the winners' enclosure often.
I look forward to that, and I certainly hope that certainly will come true.
Yeah.
We look forward to having our own horse race soon and our own colours.
Yeah.
And thank you for the opportunity. It's an incredible industry to be part of, and there's so much to learn. There's such excitement, and the feeling of seeing one of your own horses run. Today we were watching 2 of our horses in work, actually 3 of our horses in work, and it's like, wow, it just certainly has a different feeling and a different adrenaline.
Yeah. And it's when I promise you, people used to say to me when I haven't owned many winners. Well, I have had a few winners, but I'll never forget. They would say, I waited a little while for my first win, and they would say, there's no feeling. I said, come on, what do you mean no feeling? Tell me, is it like jumping off a bungee jump, you get that like whoop feeling in your stomach?
Yeah.
Is it like meeting your wife for the first time and there's that love at first? What is? They said, you cannot explain it. And when I did have the first winner, I still can't explain it. It's amazing. A high of all highs. Yeah. It's just, I mean, I interview people that have had their first winners. They're breathless, they're crying, they're just a wreck, and that's what it is all about.
Absolutely.
So there's plenty more to come.
Well, I look forward to that. And I certainly will think of you the first time we do have a winner. And I hope that it doesn't take too long.
No, I'm sure it won't. I'm sure it won't. But
I
patience,
think
you guys are patient people, and if it does take a little while, you're in it for the long haul.
Absolutely. And even if it's horses that we've bred that win. I mean, to see Wysiwyg run last week was incredible. I mean, that was just a couple of millimeters,
yeah,
you know.
It was darn close, I nearly got kicked out of my office from all the shouting and screaming. Anyway, but to you and the family, all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, and all the best. If there's anything we can do as an industry, let us know.
And thank you to GoldCircle for the opportunity.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's Sandra Trethewey, wife of Lance Trethewey, and of course the kids we've spoken about, and they are the founders of Bloomhill Stud. And we wish them all the very best. It's been a fantastic little interview that we've done, and Andrew, to have a good holiday. We wish you all well. There's been plenty betting opportunities. There's soccer betting opportunities. There's horse racing opportunities. There's, of course, the big Gold Cup, the Hong Kong Jockey Club World Pools Gold Cup that comes out later on this month. So plenty of action. Thank you to you, our supporters. We wish you all the very best. Stay safe, be nice, and as always, we'll see you in the number 1 box. Thank you for watching this week's episode of In the Box Seat podcast right until the very end. And we hope that you enjoyed it, because we certainly did. If you missed last week's podcast, In the Box Seat podcast with Andrew and myself, please go and watch it here. And last week's episode will be right there for you to go and enjoy and watch, as we know you will certainly enjoy In the Box Seat podcast from last week.